School safety is not anything new to law enforcement. I have been a head range instructor for about a decade, and we've been teaching active shooter responses to school or to our deputies for years, going in schools. Your question is part of the equation. I think that there has to be some way that we can make the schools not a soft target. That has to be a priority. Now, how that is done is completely, there's different ways to do that. Number one, there's environmental security. You could make the school like an airport, secure one way in, one way out, scanning stations, and if that's what the schools choose to do, we should do that. If the schools want more school resource officers, I think there's an obligation for the sheriff to try to make that happen. If the schools want to have armed security guards inside the schools, I think there should be an obligation for the local law enforcement to work with the security guards. And conversely, to answer your question, I have no objection to having armed individuals in schools that are properly trained and licensed. But what the important part of that is, it has to be a local decision. I am all for local control. And that decision needs to come from the school district themselves. The school district knows their population, they know their students, they know the capacities of their personnel in the building, and that, I don't believe that should be something that the sheriff's office should push on the school district, but conversely, if they decide to do that, I would support it 100%. Thank you.
Again, this is kind of an area where Marty and I agree on a lot of points. You know, it's something I've been talking about since the very beginning of my campaign and made a campaign issue. To start out with was, I believe that schools should be empowered to decide locally on how to protect their students, and there should be local control. And I think, yes, a key component of that is for, you know, I would advocate that the state pass legislation which would allow, to answer your question specifically, concealed carry in the schools, definitely. I think, you know, especially private schools don't have the ability, you know, private schools wouldn't have the ability to afford to hire a full-time deputy to be in their schools. So, I mean, it just makes perfect sense that, you know, financially for private schools, that be an option for them. As well, though, I do know it should be a local decision, because there are schools, I don't think it should be something that's mandatory that teachers have to carry firearms in schools. And I know there'd be school districts in the state of Wisconsin that no employee would choose to carry a firearm inside the school. So yes, in those cases, they need to be able to decide locally, am I going to hire local law enforcement? There needs to be legislation, because right now you can't do it, hire armed security within the schools. Legislation to allow, yes, armed security within schools, to allow, if they want to solicit, you know, trained volunteers who want to come in and provide, you know, armed security within schools. I think those are all options that should be on the table. And again, I think one of the unique positions of one of the unique roles of the sheriff is we have the ability to advocate for causes like this, and that's something that I promise to do as sheriff.